Hi guys, welcome to another session of News in 30 minutes. I hope your weekend was very productive. See, rest is important, but you have to balance rest with another R, that is revisions. Your weekends must always go with this. Okay, whatever you studied for the week, make sure that you are doing your revisions in the weekend. Only with this you will get your confidence. Okay, otherwise you're going to just exhaust yourself or you're going to be very underconfident. So both rest and revisions are very important, and use your weekend productively to do this. Okay, one more information is the TNT series is live. Episode 6 is out today, and it is about a very interesting concept that is given by Talcott Parsons, that is known as Eagle paradigm. Okay, it's a very good concept that you can use in your answers. So please go ahead and look at it, and please make a note of this. Okay, with that, let's get on with the important issues on the 11th of December 2023. Okay, now the first issue is according to the NCRB 2023 report. Okay, a lot of issues have been coming out, and today the issue is, are crimes against women on the rise? Okay, the data of NCRB indicate for the year 2022 that it indicates two things. One, if I take from 2021 to 22, if you take normal crime rate, if you take just the crime rate has reduced. The reason crime rate has reduced is in 2021 it was 268 crimes per 1 lakh population. Okay, but it reduced to 258 crimes per 1 lakh population. See, so over a period of 2021 to 2022, the crime rates have reduced. Okay, however, the crime against women, from 2021 to 2022 is showing an increase in 4%. Okay, the crime against women is showing an increase in 4%. All this in the NCRB report. Okay, so the next question comes, what is the reason for this increase in the crimes against women, whereas if you are seeing the overall crimes are reducing? Okay, now as per the NCRB also points out that there is increase in the registration of complaints. Okay, before there was no registration of complaints. However, now there is increase in the registration of complaints. Now, why is this increase happening? It is happening because of awareness. It is happening because of the courage shown by women. It is also happening because of the legislative arm. Okay, and the next, it is happening because of the administration that is now reaching out. The administration that is reaching out to far places like rural areas. Okay, so this is very important for you to understand that with respect to governance aspects, we have improved in the governance aspects. Hence, we are able to now identify more such crimes that are happening at a very, very local scale. Okay, so this statistics may show that the crime is increasing, but the crime is increasing because there has been increased the registration of complaints regarding the crimes against women, which is in a way good, because the more we are able to identify and isolate, we can take corrective measures, and such people who have committed such crime can be brought against their crimes that they have committed, they can be brought to justice. Okay, so this is the main reason for the crimes against women. Okay, however, see, though we know that the registration has increased, what is also important is that means crimes against women are still happening. Okay, crimes against women are still happening. So the crimes against women are still happening. Why is something that you have to dwell in India. Okay, that is, you have to find reasons for it. The crime against women, the most important, the most basic factor that has always influenced the crime against women are the social factors. The reason is because of the patriarchal system in India. Okay, the next is the cultural factors. When I say cultural factors, basically it is because of the division of labor. Okay, the division of labor that is done by men and women. Okay, so when this division of labor is being done by men and women for several ages, and now if this division of labor is not adhered to then it can result in crimes against women. Okay, so that is the cultural aspect to it. Okay, the next factor is obviously the economic factor, where women are seeking independence, financial independence, where women are trying to become an agency, that is, they are trying to become entities who can take decisions. Now, this will obviously be, in tussle with the male egoism or with respect to the male entities. Okay, so this again becomes a problem. Okay, so that again is the economic factor. Okay, the next is modern values. Modern values are coming in conflict with the traditional values. Okay, for example, it can be live-in relationship. Okay, or it can also be a casual relationship. Okay, such thing also becomes a factor. The next is the rise of technological factors. That is, women are more vulnerable due to digital space. For example, you can take deep fakes. Okay, deep fakes make them more vulnerable. So like this, technology is also becoming a medium for harassment of women. So the next factor can be the workplaces. Okay, the next factor can be human trafficking, where women are broadly the victims. Okay, the next, for example, one more social factor I would like to tell is, within the patriarchal system, you are seeing acid attacks. Why acid attacks? 80% or 90% of attacks, acid attacks, happens on women. Okay, that is another social factor. Okay, so all these aspects points out to the problem that is there within the system that we have to overcome. All right, now within this there is also the government as well as administrative neglect. This is also another problem. Okay, government or administrative neglect. Okay, now why will I say government or administrative neglect? The reason why I am telling government or administrative neglect is, I'll give you an example. See, if you take the MHA, Ministry of Home Affairs, in Rajya Sabha. Okay, in Rajya Sabha, as of 2022, in Rajya Sabha, the Ministry of Home Affairs has given the statement that the representation of women in police force, is just 11.7% in all state police forces. Okay, if you take all the state police forces, the representation of women stands at only 11%. This is given by MHA in the Rajya Sabha. Okay, as of 2022. Okay, look at this. This is very abysmally low rate. If women representation are not there in police force, how do you expect the law enforcement agencies? To be gender sensitized? Okay, so that is the question that we have to ask. How can they be gender sensitized? Okay, so that's why I'm telling that one of the factor is also government and administrative neglect. However, the passing of 108th Amendment Act, that is the Women Reservation Bill, the Women Reservation Act, that allows 1/3 of the Lok Sabha and the State Assembly to be reserved for women, is a step forward. However, that doesn't mean that the crime against women will reduce. We have to address the crime against women from all these factors. Patriarchal. We have to remove this division of labor that has culturally been coming with our system. We have to overcome these economic factors, where we have to show that women are equally competent and they are equal rights to participate in the labor market. We also have to show that the modern values should have some type of legal protection. If modern values have some type of legal protection, then women will be able to feel secure. And we should also make sure that the government and administrative measures must be implemented in spirit. The reason why again I am telling that they must be implemented in spirit is, if you take the laws that are there for women's safety actually has this many laws. Let me tell you what are the laws that are protecting women's safety. There is Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956. The second is there is Dowry Prohibition Act 1961. Third, there is Commission of Sati Prevention Act 1987. There is Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act 1986. Then there is Prohibition of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005. And the last is Sexual Harassment of Women. Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace. Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act 2013. Okay. SHW. Okay, Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act 2013. So you have, these are the 6 important legislative measures that have been taken in India, which shows that with respect to laws, we are already implemented. It has been very progressive. But with respect to implementing this law, okay, the spirit, there is the law on paper, but with respect to implementing this law in spirit is somewhere where we have neglected. Okay, so this is something that we have to work upon. Okay, so you can make a note of this. This discussion itself will complete the entire topic called women. As you know, women becomes very important in GS1 as well as in GS2. One question will always be centered around women in GS1 and GS2, as well as women is an important topic in essay also. Okay, the hand that rocks the cradle is something that talks about women. Okay, they had asked about the life cycle of how women and her experiences throughout the life cycle approach, the burden that they carry. That is another essay that was asked. So essay also has been repeatedly centered around women, at least one essay. So you should have very good type of dimensions, perspectives, as well as facts and legislations that are centered around women. So this article does a justice in giving you that information. So I hope it was helpful, and I hope you can make a note of these things properly. All right, let us go on to the next issue of the day. The next issue is Switzerland, Norway ministers arriving for dialogue on trade. The 4-nation EFTA grouping of Nordic countries have stepped up trade negotiations. This grouping has already signed FTA with 30 countries, and they are now wanting to sign agreement with India. Okay, so basically what is this grouping? It is called EFTA. EFTA means European Free Trade Association. It means European Free Trade Association. Okay, this European Free Trade Association is a 4 European country. These 4 European countries together have come to create the European Free Trade Associations. These countries are as follows. 1 is Iceland. 2 is Liechtenstein. 3 is Norway. And 4 is Switzerland. Okay, these 4 nations together make up European Free Trade Associations. One more thing you should know is these 4 nations are outside. They are outside European Union. They are outside European Union. Hence, they have created their own free trade association. Okay. Now, this is known as EFTA. Okay. So, these 4 nations together is known as EFTA. All right. Now, the EFTA is trying to sign an agreement with India, and that agreement is TEPA and BIT. BIT, as everyone knows, is Bilateral Investment Treaty. Okay, this is to protect investments in other countries, each other countries. TEPA means it wants to sign a agreement known as Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement. Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement. Okay, so this is what the EFTA is doing. That is why the leaders from Switzerland as well as Norway are coming to India to talk about those negotiations. Okay, so this is what is the news. So what you should know is this grouping. EFTA is very, very important. Okay, now to just give you a background, India is working on signing of FTAs in different countries. Currently, it is working to sign FDA, that is free trade agreement. It is trying to sign free trade agreement with UK as well as with European Union. Okay, because UK is separated from European Union, it is trying to sign agreements both at UK and European Union. That agreement is still going on. Also, India is trying to sign CECA with Australia. Australia is trying to sign with India something called CECA. CECA is Comprehensive Economic and Commercial Agreement. Comprehensive Economic and Commercial Agreement. So this CECA is being signed with Australia. The next is India is also trying to strengthen. Something called PTA. This is known as Preference Trade Agreement. Okay, so preference trade agreement with Mercosur nations. Okay, we are trying to strengthen. See, we have already signed this. Okay, we are trying to strengthen the preference trade agreement with Mercosur nations. So let me just give you a background of that. See, if you take Mercosur, okay, we already have something called PTA. PTA means, as I told you, preference trade agreement. Preference trade agreement is always considered as a precursor. It is always considered as a precursor for free trade agreement. Okay, once we sign preference trade agreement, to improve our bonding, to improve our understanding, once we get to know each other, then we go on to commit more, and this more commitment results in free trade agreement. So with Mercosur, we do not have FTA. We still have PTA, and this PTA was signed in 2009. Okay, so India is trying to strengthen its ties so that from PTA in future it can evolve to become FTA. Okay, so what is Mercosur? Mercosur is a Latin America grouping. And this Latin America grouping constitutes 4 countries. We have Brazil, we have Argentina, then we have Paraguay, and then you have Uruguay. Okay, so these 4 countries put together is known as Latin America grouping. Okay, so this is what is another thing that India is working upon. So overall, India is working upon UK, EU for free trade agreement, with Australia for CECA, and to strengthen its PTA so that in the future it can evolve to become FTA. So this is something that India is working on, and currently the EFTA is also interested in getting India's sign in order to establish what we call as the TEPA and BIT. That is the Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement along with Bilateral Investment Treaty. So this is regarding the agreements with respect to India and other countries, especially the EFTA, that is European Free Trade Association, which constitutes the 4 nations: Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway and Switzerland. Okay, so let us go to the next issue of the day. The next issue is the French frigate shoots down drones over Red Sea. Okay, so this Red Sea is making a lot of news, so you should have an idea of where this Red Sea is and what are all the some of the important places that surrounds the Red Sea. As you have already heard, this Houthi rebels. Okay, Houthi rebels are basically rebels who have occupied the capital of Yemen and the surrounding part. Okay, these Houthi rebels have occupied this. The Houthi rebels basically are supported or backed by. They are backed by Iran. Okay, they are backed by Iran. So this is these are the rebels who had recently seized. They had recently seized a ship that was going from Israel to India's Pipavav port. Pipavav port is in Gujarat. So they had seized this particular ship. All right. So Houthi rebels and Yemen, as well as the countries of Red Sea, are making a lot of news. So it is pertinent for you to know spatially about. You have to have a spatial sense about Red Sea. That is the reason I have used this particular diagram. Now, if you observe carefully here, look at Red Sea. Okay, look at the Red Sea. If you observe the Red Sea, let us observe the surrounding countries of Red Sea in clockwise direction, so or anti-clockwise direction. It's up to you. Okay, so I will start from Egypt. If you go with Egypt, then you have Sudan, then you have Eritrea, then you have Ethiopia. Okay, I'm sorry, Ethiopia is a landlocked country. Sorry, you have Djibouti, you have Yemen, you have Saudi Arabia, you have Jordan, and then you have Israel. Okay, Israel also has a border along this what you call as Gulf of Aqaba. Okay, so Israel is also part of the Red Sea. All right, so I'll repeat it again. Which are all the countries that have border with Red Sea? If you take Red Sea, then you have Egypt, you have Sudan, you have Eritrea, you have Djibouti, then you have Yemen, Saudi Arabia, then Jordan, and finally Israel. Okay, so these are the countries that surround Red Sea. Also, just observe in Djibouti, in the country called Djibouti, observe this Bab el Mandeb. Okay, Bab el Mandeb is very, very important. The Strait of Bab el Mandeb is considered as a choke point. The Strait of Bab el Mandeb is considered as a choke point for accessing Indian Ocean. That is, if you control Bab el Mandeb, you control access of Mediterranean Sea into Indian Ocean. That is, if you control Bab el Mandeb, you can choke European access to Indian Ocean. That is the importance of this Bab el Mandeb. So if you take Bab el Mandeb, this is a strait that is surrounded by three countries. You have Eritrea, you have Djibouti, and then you have Yemen. These are the three countries that surround Bab el Mandeb. That is another information that you should know. One more information you should know is, look at this Gulf of Aqaba. In this Gulf of Aqaba, if they ask you what are all the nations that border the Gulf of Aqaba, there are four nations. Okay, the four nations are Egypt, then you have Israel, then you have Jordan, and then you have Saudi Arabia. Okay, so these are the four nations. You have Egypt, you have Israel, you have Jordan, and then you have Saudi Arabia. So these are the four nations that border the Gulf of Aqaba. Okay, see, this is the Gulf of Aqaba, and it is through Gulf of Aqaba that Jordan and Israel will get access to Red Sea. Okay, so also one more thing I just wanted to tell. Remember Ben Gurion project. There was a project called Ben Gurion Canal. This was actually planned. Okay, during post World War II it was planned. So this Ben Gurion project was to build an alternative to Suez Canal. If you take this is the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal will connect Mediterranean Sea with Red Sea. Okay, so there was a project called Ben Gurion Canal, that is to build an alternative to Suez Canal. It comes like this. See, it goes through Israel and then it goes to Gulf of Aqaba. So this going from Israel to Gulf of Aqaba, this is known as this was actually the planned as Ben Gurion Canal. However, it was not successful because of its feasibility problems. This was anyways in news. That's why I just told you this. So these are some informations that you should know regarding West Asia. Okay, so as I told you, Red Sea is making a lot of news. So you should know what are the countries surrounding Red Sea, what are the countries surrounding Gulf of Aqaba, and you should know West Asia in detail. Okay, West Asia is something that you should have a spatial sense, a very, very detailed spatial sense, because questions can come from that directly. Okay, so this is regarding this issue. The next issue is consensus on global goal on adaptation is elusive. Now see, what is this article talking about is, if you take the Paris Agreement, okay, in Paris Agreement, two things were adopted. The first is we have to make sure there has to be global stock take. This was agreed in Paris Agreement. This happened in COP21 2015. It was agreed that there has to be global stock take that should happen every 5 years. And the first global stock take happened in COP28 in Dubai. Okay, so this is one news. The next, within the Paris Agreement, there was one more thing that was decided, that is global goal on adaptation. Global goal on adaptation. This was also decided. This is a collective commitment. It was a collective commitment under Article 7.1 of Paris Agreement. Okay, it was a collective commitment under Article 7.1 of the Paris Agreement. Okay, however, why is this that you don't listen to this news is because all the rich nations like USA, UK, or you can take even the European Union, all these nations have tried to make sure they suppress this goal, that is the global goal on adaptation. Okay, now a little bit about this global goal on adaptation. Global goal on adaptation, which is known as GEA, it was actually proposed first by African negotiators. They were the one who came up with this global goal on adaptation. Okay, so this focuses more on adaptation. If you take global stock take, okay, this focuses more on mitigation. That is the difference between them. If GST focuses on mitigation, GGA focuses on adaptation. Okay, so this was proposed by African negotiators in 2013. Finally, after 2 years of negotiation in 2015, this was implemented in the Paris Agreement. Okay, now what does this say? This is nothing but enhancing the world's adaptive capacity. Second is strengthening resilience. And third is to reduce vulnerability. Okay, so this is basically what is GGA. GGA is to enhance the world's adaptive capacity, strengthening resilience and reducing vulnerability. Okay, so overall this is the basic idea of global goal on adaptation. The reason why it has not taken off is because it is based on differentiated responsibilities. Differentiated responsibilities means the historical polluters, that is the current developed nations, they have to provide funds so that highly vulnerable nations, in which India is also part of, can improve their adaptive capacity, can build resilience and also can reduce vulnerability. Okay, so this is the main idea. However, because these historical polluters have to pay more money, they have consciously made sure that this global goal on adaptation has not taken off. So that is what this article is telling. Consensus on global goal on adaptation has remained elusive. What is very important is, see, why is this coming in news is, one, COP28 is happening and the developing nations have brought this forward. Okay, that is one news. The second is UNEP, that is United Nations Environmental Program, has also come up with something called Adaptation Report. It brings up something called Adaptation Report, and then this Adaptation Report, it has pointed out that the world needs around $387 billion for adaptation. Okay, so that is the reason why this GGA has now become very important. See, what is important is the more and more we try to delay GGA, the more and more we need to pay the price to adapt. That is something that is very, very important. So the greater the delay, the greater will be the price. Okay, so hence we have to make sure that we should not try to remain elusive, and the historical polluters must try to provide a proper funding so that the highly vulnerable nations can take up adaptive capacity, build resilience and reduce vulnerabilities. So this is regarding the concept of global goal on adaptation. Okay, so I hope this was clear. Okay, the next is the cases of human trafficking victims being forced to commit cyber crimes are on the rise. What this is talking about is, this is talking about an operation that was carried out all over the world by Interpol, and that operation is known as Operation Stormmakers 2. Operation Stormmakers 2. This Operation Stormmakers 2 is nothing but an operation carried out by Interpol. Okay, it has resulted in 281 people being arrested in different parts of the world. Okay, and they are arrested on the charges of human trafficking, okay, and passport forgery and sexual exploitation. Okay, sexual exploitation. Now, while doing this, one thing what they found out is people who are subjected to human trafficking, these people are forced to commit cyber crimes. They are forced to commit cyber crimes. See, according to Interpol, the Telangana police registered one of the first cases in India of human trafficking committed for the purpose of forcing victims to commit cyber fraud. Okay, so India is also party to this Operation Stormmakers, which is basically carried out by the international police. Okay, so a few days back I just discussed what is Interpol or International Police. If I take Interpol, the full form is International Police Organization. That is what is Interpol. The next is it is intergovernmental. Okay, it has 196 members. Okay, its headquarters is in Lyons, France, and then it has also global complex. It has a global complex for innovation. In Singapore. Okay, and the next thing is it issues red notices. And these red notices are basically to seek and arrest wanted criminals, to seek and arrest wanted persons. So this is the background behind Interpol, and all the nations investigative agency will be representative of it. So in India, the representation of India in Interpol is done by CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation. So that is the central point of contact for Interpol in India. So this is the overall idea of the Interpol, which is overseeing an operation called Operation Stormmakers 2. Okay, I hope this was helpful. The next is the issue of natural vegetation on nearly 12,850 square kilometer in the Cauvery Basin has been lost. So basically this is a case study that you can ask, that you can talk regarding environmental degradation, environmental sustainable development, or how human induced land changes. Okay, so it can be a case study on anything regarding application of environment or the effect of humans on environment. This is very good case study that can be used in your GS3 environmental answers. Okay, so basically as you can see, this is talking about a case study of Cauvery Basin. So if you take Cauvery Basin, overall Cauvery Basin is shared by it is shared by Kerala, very little of Kerala, mostly of Karnataka, then of Tamil Nadu, and then Puducherry. Okay, so you have 4 states, but majority of it is shared by Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Next, in this Cauvery Basin, as the report suggests, 12,850 square kilometer of green cover is lost. 12,850 square kilometer of green cover is lost, and this is lost for a period of only 50 years. If you take the span of 1965 to 2016, in only 50 years we have lost almost 12,850 square kilometers. That is, if I have to convert it in percentage terms, in 50 years we have lost almost 46% of green cover. Okay, and if you take Karnataka accounts for 3/4 of the lost green cover, and Tamil Nadu accounts for 1/4 of the lost green cover. Look at this. Okay, and this entire statistics is given by a research paper of IISc. Okay, so to reiterate, it is the case study of Cauvery Basin. Cauvery is shared by 4 states broadly. Majority is shared by Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. In the last 50 years, Cauvery Basin has seen a decline in green cover of up to 12,850 square kilometers, which comes down to 46% of green cover lost in the span of 50 years from 1965 to 2016, and this is given by the research paper of IISc. Okay, the paper also says that 4 important areas are suffering. One is Brahmagiri Wildlife Sanctuary. The next is Bandipur National Park. The next is Nagar Ole National Park, and the next is Cauvery Wildlife Sanctuary. They have told these 4 have substantially suffered because of the decline of Cauvery basins. Okay, and the next is when they ask the reasons for the responsibility of decline of green cover, the one is inappropriate cropping pattern. Okay, the second they tell is inefficient water use. The third they say is adaptation of adaptation of multi-season water intensive crops. Multi-season water intensive crops. Okay, they mainly grow two crops. One is rice, another is sugarcane. Okay, and also there are a few places that grow plantation crops. As you can see, all these crops are multi-season water intensive crops. Okay, the fourth one is unsustainable sand mining in the riverbed and floodplains. And the last is decline in community participation in the Cauvery watershed. Okay, these are the reasons broadly that the IASC research paper says for the decline of green cover. Okay, so again, this is a very good case study that you can use in your GS3 paper. This can be used as a case study with respect to environmental degradation. It can be used as a case study with respect to how agriculture affects environment. This can also be used as a case study in declining people's participation in sustaining or helping environment. It can also be used as a case study where administrative neglect has led to environmental degradation. It can also be used in case study where because of lack of interstate coordination, there is environmental degradation. Okay, see, you can use this case study in different possibilities. The possibilities are endless. Okay, so case studies are very good window for you to elaborate and show your maturity regarding the subject or the topic. So it shows how well you can relate to that subject or a topic. So make sure that you use these case studies that I keep giving you in different aspect of your answer writing. Okay, so these are some of the important issues of the day. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you are making good use of this initiative and making a notes of each and every issues that I am going to discuss. Okay, please make sure that you like, share and subscribe, guys. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Keep bringing all that love and make sure that you're consistent. I will also be consistent. Thank you so much. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.